So it's my great pleasure today to introduce Kevin Badin, who is the founder of Ora Innovations. And with that, I will hand over to Kevin to present the subject.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tim. Pleasure to be here and help the community as well. I've been nearly for the last 16 years. I met many of the medical devices startups, many who's been there for a number of years, and we managed to help more than 15, 16 companies implement quality management system and achieve their certification, whether it is CE mark or through TGA or FDA, wide spectrum there where they can get their certification depending on their device. Okay, I'm just skipping this
can I actually,
myself.
Before you move on, you've got a thick accent there.
Yeah.
Tell us about where you've come from.
Oh, well, if that's important, I was born in Lebanon, back in the southeast Lebanon, on the footsteps of the known Haraman Mountain. And due to the situation there, I left Lebanon more than nearly 45 years ago. And been around the world in many a country, my education from the East and the West, and landed 32 years in this lovely Australia.
Yeah, and you've still got family there because you very delightfully brought in some olives for me to eat, which is really, really lovely of you.
I think if any of the restaurants are watching the webinar today, probably they would know some of that as well, because yes, we always like to share what we can, what we grow there, and we're building a nice 5 acres pine nut and olive farm. Yeah, on those footsteps there, and it's a great place. And hopefully, if time allow, we're going to end up having a resort there and invite everybody to visit. Yes. When peace bestows on that area.
I do raise this because quality management systems can be seen as a very dry subject, and you know, but you've obviously found it an exciting field to be in and made it your career.
It is really, I mean, some may think it's a dry subject. I do agree and do disagree in one way. I started my involvement in medical devices back in 1991. I started as manufacturing engineer at Telectronics. So the top end of regulation, you have to start from the top, building pacemakers. So I was basically, my team was actually responsible for packing the defibrillator. At that time, they used to assemble and put it in the titanium can and send it to welding. So then, I came to medical device industry from the top end, but then from engineering moved to management and decided to make it as a career back in 2003 with the start of 1345.
And your business is based in Wollongong?
My business is based in Sydney.
Sydney, is it?
Sydney, yeah, I'm just moved the house to Wollongong.
Oh, okay.
Sydney became a bit crowded with driving, so we decided we have a property there. We decided to move there. Okay. And my business on Elizabeth Street, 99 Elizabeth Street, on the 8th floor.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'll skip that. Enough about myself. It's not about me today. It's about the application of the 1345 standard. Ora Innovation was established in 2003, nearly 17 years ago. And we've been lucky to be able to help many companies, as I mentioned before, and in those areas, in the quality management system, regulatory affairs, product development, and work health and safety if they require.
Yes, just before we dive into quality management, can you just explain, obviously there's a relationship between all of these different subject areas.
Of course.
Can you explain why they're related?
They're related to for a company who manufactures medical devices, we will be addressing in the future in the next slides, they need to comply with certain regulatory requirements in every country and jurisdiction. They would like to put their device for sale, and to be able to comply with the required regulatory requirement, they need to have a quality management system. It is, I mean, currently 1345 is the ticket, is the standard which every medical devices company has to comply with. In one way, in the legal terms, there is no, if you like, somebody might argue, we don't have to have a certificate, we have to have a system compliant, which is correct. The medical devices directive, which up to now is still valid, and the MDR. and in TGA and FDA, they don't state you must have a certification for this. But when you have a certificate, it is the easy way to convince everybody your system compliant. I'll give you a quick, which is funny text. When you catch a taxi, you don't ask the driver, drive me around to see if you are a good driver, then I'll hire you, because he was or she was qualified by somebody else who gave them a license to drive a taxi. In a similar way, when your company implemented a system compliant with 1345 standard, and you've been certified and given a certificate, that means everyone else would acknowledge that certificate. Everyone needs to show that you are compliant, or you need to show you are compliant. They will acknowledge that certificate from as long as from known notified body.
Yeah,
that's the way.
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Now, why we need this? I mentioned some of that before. For every medical device company who planning to place a device on the market, they must have compliant with set of regulatory requirements. And through the years since 2003, 1345 became the shortcut to achieve compliance. If you have that, then they assess your technical file and other documentation, and you will be issued with either, in Australia, you will be issued with CA, which conformity assessment certificate, or through Europe, through European notified body, you will be issued with CE mark. Yeah. And that shows your device is compliant with the currently MDD. Soon we'll be talking about MDR.
So can you explain MDD?
MDD, there's a number of MDDs up to now, there's 3 of them. And the most known is MDD 9342, which is for non-implantable devices, yeah. and below that. There's one for implantable medical devices as well, yeah. Another MDD, and the IVD one, which is 3. Currently, under the MDR, the new regulations, the European regulation, they combine the implantable and non-implantable in one. They call them MDR, and there is one for the IVD. So we will, from May,
IVD is?
IVD, in vitro diagnostic devices.
Yeah.
So this is
in plain English, that is a...
that's mostly used by labs, for test labs, yeah. And for... Yeah.
So this community is about active medical devices. We're usually talking about boxes with electronics in them, doing some sort of device. Where do they fit in?
They fit in the MDR.
Yes.
The future, and from May 26, everybody will be required to comply with the MDR requirement if they're placing a new device in the market. If they already have an existing device, notified bodies allowed most of the industry to extend their certificate up to 2024.
Okay.
So if they have a certificate, valid certificate, they were allowed, if they want to extend under the MDD.
Yeah, most of the people today will be getting a new certificate, yeah. I imagine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's no, since last November, October, they haven't been taking any new application under the MDD.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right. MedSAP, this is what we call the new guy on the block, which started about 6 years ago. It is a consortium from 5 jurisdictions, if you like, or more than 5 countries. It is Australia, US, Brazil, Japan, and Canada. They decided to have something we call now a single audit program, which is MedSAP, Medical Devices Single Audit Program. You'll be able to get a certificate for that, which is basically the ISO 1345 certificate plus the specific requirement for Australia, which is required by TGA, specific requirement for Japan, specific requirement for Brazil, specific requirement for US, and specific requirement for Canada. Yeah. Canada was the first to enforce that as compulsory. Mm-hmm. Supposed to be 2019, but now they allow throughout 2019 companies who couldn't switch to the new system, I mean to MedSAP, to sell throughout 2020, providing they have some agreement with their notified body that they're going to be audited throughout 2020. Yeah. They extended their certificate for a year.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the purpose for the 1345 for medical device companies, they must be manufacturing medical device or supplying gadgets for the medical device manufacturer. Mm. The medical device could be any of these classes, Currently, there's class 1, class 1M, 1S. 1M is measuring, class 1 for measurement, class 1 sterile, class 2A. It's many, I mean, I would say most of medical devices, especially powered one, they will fall in this criteria.
Yeah, certainly in the experience of Genesis and CircuitWise, they just
2A
is a 2A.
Maybe especially powered devices.
Yeah, so if you're somebody out there who's got some sort of medical device that's not particularly invasive or life dependent, it's just have some sort of box of electronics doing some sort of measurement and so forth.
Yeah,
it's usually 2A.
2A. 2B is a bit higher risk than 2A. 3, mostly implantable and higher risk devices. I put 4 here because for Canada, they classify them four classes, not 3.
Huh?
So yeah, some 2A here, maybe 3 in especially devices for monitoring. 2A, where I have clients who have 2A everywhere in the world except in Canada. They classify it as 3. Yeah. And the regulatory requirement is quite different between the class 2 and class 3 for Canada, just for Canada. Okay, and then for IVDs, they classify them differently, A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, so that's in vitro diagnostics.
Yeah,
so this is some sort of point of care diagnostic.
Yeah, point of care diagnostic. Maybe probably I will take the opportunity to say a company like Atomo, they developed IVD to test HIV, and they are the highest class in this.
So I've seen a whole heap of things. They're quite often little handheld devices where you put in some sort of swab test or a strip and that you've taken a sample from the patient within a minute or two.
They all fall in the
and they do involve electronics as well.
Of course, IVD can involve electronics. The issue for the IVD is under the MDR. If we say we use the Pareto analysis, under the old IVD, IVD MDD, if you like, MD IVD, which is the up to now was valid for CE certification. They were like, if you like, 25% of IVDs classified as medical devices, and 75% not classified as they need certification. Under the new MDR for IVD, it's vice versa. So IVD have a lot of things to do on their plate now to address, to be able to comply.
But in terms of these MDs, so just
medical devices.
Medical devices and in vitro devices, both of which are active devices, you would normally get a regulatory consultant to make a determination on your behalf to determine what class it is. Yeah. And at what point do the regulatory authorities kind of confirm that advice? The regulatory authority, you may seek some consultation from notified bodies to help, but they don't provide consultation unless you engage them as a consultant, because they are not a consultant at that time. Yeah, sure. But they will be, all of them, happy to help you find the right. Okay, what is a notified body? Notified body is European organization, which is like, I can name somebody like TÜV, TÜV Rheinland, BSI. British Standards Institute. I mean, they operate here under BSI, and they are authorized by the competent authority in Europe to issue CE certificate, to assess the technical file and the quality management system, and issue both the 1345 and, like in Australia, let's say, if we compare to Australia, we have TGA. The issue that TGA is not a notified body, is a regulatory body, like FDA. Yeah. This is the distinction. So these are government bodies. While BSI and TÜV and many others, they are not a government. They are not government organizations. They are private businesses, but they are authorized to issue these certificates. Okay. Yeah. Now, again, for design, I said here is the manufacturer of medical device, like design and development. For example, like your company, you do design and development of part of medical device. Okay, but you still have obligation to understand the regulatory requirement for what's required by for the gadget. So both Genesis and CircuitWise and a number of other companies around have ISO 13405 certification. So even though we're not a manufacturer, we need to have certification in order to provide those services to
be able,
company?
yes, to be able to give confidence to your clients, and not just to your client, to their auditors, to their notified body. You have a system, which is certified system, that reduce the requirement by notified body to come and audit you as a supplier, because notified body have to have visibility over the whole supply chain.
Yeah.
That's why.
So strictly speaking, as I understand it, electronics designers, industrial designers, manufacturers, they don't actually have to have an ISO 13485 certificate. It just makes it easier. Can you explain why?
Yeah, as I said, by law, you don't have to have it. It's not a legal requirement. But when you have it, as the example I gave before, if you are certified, you're supposed to operate under a known, or if you like, traceable, recognized quality measurement system.
Yes.
Right? Having the system certified, give confidence to your client and to their notified body that if you change something, that it will be changed within the regulatory requirement in controlled environment. So that's why notified body like to see all the supplier in the supply chain are certified, though it's not a legal requirement. Okay?
Sure. Okay.
So again, I think Genesis and CircleWise, they fall more or less under supplier of critical components as well. Though if you don't do the design yourself,
Can I ask a question about that? So for electronics devices, you might have resistors and capacitors, but they're not really critical components.
No.
What would classify as a critical component?
Critical component, in a way, let's say you have a specially made firmware, programmable. And if you can't get it from that supplier, you don't have a device.
Yeah.
That's critical component.
Yes.
So that's to that level. If what you need to build your medical device is not easy to get from somebody else without disruption without major disruption to your factory, to supply for a medical device, it becomes a critical.
I would have thought that the criticality of a component had something to do with the safety. For example, if a particular component had a potential to introduce an error into the measurement diagnostic, the measurement or the treatment, recommendations made, so forth. Is that also a critical?
It's critical for different reasons, but under the definition of critical supplier for the medical devices, it is where there will be disruption to the supply of the medical device.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, certification scope. Now, there is a 13485 certificate is not a standard scope. You can't get a scope for everybody the same. Depend what they need the certificate for, what they are doing, what their business is about. So either there could be scope, design, development, and manufacture of whatever medical device. And now the regulatory bodies and the notified bodies trying to be as specific as they can be, which is making it very difficult for a company like yours, for a company like design houses in Australia, because they don't know what the next project is. And if the notified body wants to say, okay, you can design boards for, let's say, heart monitoring devices, that you can, but you can't design for something else, it will be a very big problem. So now we start discussing with notified body to be as much flexible as they can to allow, but if you're a company who makes medical device, your device, they tailor the scope for it according to your device. Yeah. Okay, fine. But if in your position and all the design houses in Australia, they don't know what the next project is. It will be hard. It takes 6-7 months sometimes to update their scope to catch the new project. Yeah, this is the difficulty in setting up the scope. But this is some of the scopes here: design, development, and manufacture of medical device, subcontract, G&D, like what you do. Some of that production of, for example, you can have a certificate for production of device, but you are not responsible for the design.
Yes.
Okay. Production, installation, and servicing. That's another, could be a scope. Production and distribution is another scope. Subcontract manufacturer on behalf of somebody else. In this case, you only need ISO. You don't need any CE. And then the method of operation and the size of the company would influence the scope as well. because some people, for example, they want to subcontract everything. And only two guys with money and computers, they want to be the legal manufacturer of medical device. The issue goes around, who is the legal manufacturer of the medical device?
Yeah.
Not the actual maker of the medical device. This is what many people get confused about. There could be many makers of the, builder of the medical device, manufacturer of medical device, but they are not the legal manufacturer of medical device.
Yeah.
So you can design, me and you, we can design a device, subcontract a design house, or subcontract a manufacturing house, subcontract distribution organization, and we may not see the device at all from the factory to the user, but you're still the legally responsible. And
perhaps I might give a little example here so the audience can see this clearly, a typical case study that at Genesis that we would do is that you might have a client of ours who's developing a particular device, and we have one that's in the orthopedic surgery space. And so you might have, so that company needs to be ISO 13485 certified because they're sort of distributing and marketing the product around the world. But then they've got us as the electronics designer. They've got a manufacturer who's doing the injection molding for the device and putting the electronics in that. They've got the electronics manufacturer also has to be certified. Then they've got a company that does sterilization and packaging. They also have to be 13485 certified.
Sterilization companies, most of them.
So there's almost like this ecosystem of companies. And one of the reasons we've started this community is to raise awareness that most of these capabilities are available in New South Wales. You don't have to go overseas for everything. Often people do.
We have a lot of resources here. We have to tap on it. Okay. I'm giving some examples here for just to clarify some confusion. From 2003 up to now, we've been in contact with many companies. We audited many companies. We helped many companies to implement systems. Some people like to say, okay, my management is not really committed, this and that. Say, okay, fair enough. We just recommending that management commitment must be really stated in a clear way to make sure everyone in the company understand what the company is about. The quality management system required the company to have a policy statement, or they call it quality statement. We expand on it to cover all aspects of the business. So then it's clear what the management is about, what everyone in the company should comply with, should follow. And this is an example of a policy statement, which is being, I think, with modification to suit different companies. All our clients have roughly the same thing. One of the things which is people try to say, can we make it short? Okay, we see some statements say, okay, our mission is to manufacture quality, the highest quality of medical devices. What does that mean? Not to the employees, not to the auditor, and people think, but that's too much. But that's not, for us, talking from experience, this style of quality management statement could be the ideal to be used to convince everyone in the company, if whether the management is committed or not.
I'm thinking there's two purposes to this document, isn't there? One is obviously to get your certification.
Of course.
And so it needs to be convincing to the auditors. But the other one is, it's very easy for people to pay lip service to something like the quality system and the policy. To what extent do you get, how does this having a policy statement translate into actual developing a really positive culture in an organization to commit to the quality?
By having a detailed quality statement or policy statement like that, the system requires you to communicate that through all the level of the company. We come up with a system to make sure it's being communicated and everybody understands it. We ask every employee to sign, so the CEO or the MD signs the first. Mm-hmm. It's issued as document number 1 in the system, and we ask for every employee in the company, any company, we help implement the system, to read, comment, and sign. And if they have any issue before they sign it, we'll be happy to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And these things, believe me, throughout the years, been modified many times because some employees question whether their management is really what it says in the document.
This, yeah.
And that's helped the company understand all their internal processes as well, improve their internal processes as well. It's not just the purpose is not just to get certification. The purpose is to make sure everyone in the company on the same page. And that's in the other slides here I'm showing now. Again, through experience, we found out the best thing to when you plan for your quality management system is to get the buy-in from everybody at the start. Because when you start, you employ somebody like us to start implementing system and help you. If not everyone in the company knows about that and understand why they've been asking these questions, you will not get really a well implemented quality management system. So we come up with a few examples of this slide, of this charts, to sit down with the key personnel at the start in the company and say, okay, how do you want to run your business? Because we never promote our business as quality management system. We promote operating system. That's how we work. If this is agreed on, the quality management system is a piece of cake. If everyone in the company agrees, this is where you get the idea. This is how we're going to cook it. This is what's supposed to be prepared to make sure the device is, we're addressing everything required, and how we're going to proceed through our work and how our processes will be set, and up to selling the device and the feedback. If that's clear from the start to clear to everyone in the company, preparing the documentation and planning the quality management system, that's no hassle at all.
Sure. And what this really springs to mind for me is that this can feed into your policy development, because for each of these steps, you could ask, what are the things could go wrong? What do we have to do well to make sure that it happens exactly as we expected? And that's your policy, your commitment, you know, to making this work really well.
Okay. I can say a number of companies use these charts to in the advertising for the floating of their company, and then that was in their prospect for floating when we help them develop that, because that helps everybody to see what the company is about.
what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And this is another example, a bit more. I'm not going to spend much time on that, but again, the idea could come. The first one we said the idea comes I don't know, management decided they want to do that, but here you could get it from a customer. The customer, you know, I'm sure you've seen that. Somebody drop to you and say, look, we want to do this, and that. We have some money. We have some ideas. But then some of them, they are more advanced. They already know what they want. They prepare some documentation, but they can't design themselves. They come to you, right? Or a company from the employee or from the management decided they want to develop medical device. I have a recent case now, company involved in agriculture and in chemistry. They found an opportunity in the market to do one of the new modern devices, and they're engaging us now to help them understand what this is all about. So these people like that. So yeah, this is very, very interesting at the start for the company to try to develop that, and that they will make it easy for everybody. And it's good for training when you have new employees coming.
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing in the planning is to see what's applicable, because 1345 has includes a lot of clauses and sub-clauses. Not all what's in 1345 applies for everybody. Some companies don't do sterilization, some companies don't do implantables, some companies don't do services. Depend what are you designing and what's your device about, what's the intended purpose for the device.
Yeah.
So a simple table like that, here is all what is included in the area in the standard, all the clauses numbers, all the clauses titles, and then here say, okay, we go through discussion. Is it applicable for us? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So then all the yeses, this is just first page, normally about 7 pages here. And then where it is documented, where we're going to document it, or we propose to document it. And that is one of the best things company can do. And where the status, for example, where that document at this stage, is it draft, is it released? And that can be used for monitoring the progress for the implementation as well. And then At that time, the company will decide which department will be responsible for this area, which department will be responsible for this document to prepare. And then after everything been implemented, then how this process will be monitored in the future. Are we going to monitor through auditing or through management review meetings? So that's why we call it a QMS plan responsibility matrix. So that sets everything. When everything is implemented, all that will be turned to released. And that is the best guide a company can use during auditing. Because when the auditor comes in, he will ask you questions. As long as you know under which clause he's asking you, you go, ah, I can find the answer here. Especially new companies, they implemented systems and they don't know where they documented everything.
Yeah.
As a consultant, we may present there, but we can't answer on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
They have to know where they documented everything. So that's why we will provide this as an example, that this is the best guide. As soon as the auditor, external auditor comes to you, you open this, this document and you guide yourself,
yeah,
and you have a smooth audit.
Actually, you just raised a really good point there where you said during an audit, you can be present to support,
yeah,
but they have to answer the
we
question.
answer
so if the auditor can see clearly the person's got no idea where the documentation is,
they may not pass the audit.
Yeah, so that raises a question in my mind. To what extent should a company who's developing a product, an active MedTech product, have their own in-house quality person who's more or less working in parallel with a consultant like yourself?
It is important to have someone in, it doesn't have to be at the start, it's qualified quality with 10 years experience. Could be someone who's been working 1-2 years experience. We train them, we help them to implement the system. Through our work, we always try to build internal capacity. We don't want to be to do the legwork for companies. That's not our aim at all.
Yeah,
we're happy to implement the system, help the company, train them year 2 years, and if they can run their show, we'll be happy to come and audit them from time to time. And that's what we do, what we prefer. Yeah. We're not geared to do the legwork for companies. We don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how that. Okay, let's go start with the requirement now. How are we going with the time?
I've got about 5 or 10 minutes left.
Okay, we'll go quickly this one because this is just a standard, what's in the standard itself. Establish the QMS. Again, that's in terms of understanding what they are establishing the QMS for. Is it just all they need is just ISO certificate, or they want to comply with the MDR if they're making device? They want to sell in the US for USA, 21 CFR.
So just to be clear, ISO is global certificate, MDR is Europe, Europe, and 21 CFR is USA. What does CFR stands for?
CFR is a Code of Federal Regulations.
Code of Federal Regulations.
Sorry,
aren't you glad you came along to this webinar just to learn that particular acronym? Yeah. That is a real challenge, isn't it, all the acronyms? So
sorry, I put a lot of acronyms here because I'm expecting the audience is the initiated people who are in the medical device industry.
Oh, you can't assume that. A lot of them will be startups who are learning this for the first time. But there are obviously a lot more others.
Oh, of course.
And part of the regulatory strategy is to work out which of these ones you need to comply with.
If you have ISO certificates, you have a ticket nearly for everywhere in the world.
Yeah. So is it a case that you can just get ISO and you don't need to get MDR?
No. ISO is just the quality measurement system. Let me make it clear. To put a medical device, classified medical device in the market, you need a quality measurement system and you need technical file.
Yeah.
And the audit goes in parallel. The auditor comes to your place, audit the quality measurement system. They don't come to the company to audit the technical file.
Yeah.
You pack your technical file, you send it to whatever.
A notified body.
Notified body. They assign a tech file reviewer, and they will issue their finding against the technical file. And then the auditor who comes to you, to the company, issue their finding against the QMS. When all the findings be addressed and the two files are merged, then you get your both certificates. Yeah. You get 1355 and you get the CE if you go the European route. In TGA is different. TGA have different. We'll explain another time. Sorry, we're still here. Okay. This I'm going to say here. The requirement is about, it's the process approach. The new standard on 1345-216 emphasizes that risk-based approach for all the processes. So you put emphasis on this process or that process based on the risk associated with that process on the device. A requirement is to maintain the effectiveness of the quality management system, to provide resources to evaluate results, to monitor the effectiveness as well, and to have records. And that's measurement under management commitment. Management of QMS processes, change control. Again, this is very important for the company to make sure if they change anything, it has to be changed in a controlled manner. Control of outsourced processes. This became, if you like, the name or the flavor of the quality management system these days, because a lot of companies, small companies, they subcontract everything and they outsource everything. That process has to be tightly controlled. Otherwise, if something falls apart during the supply chain, there's no device. And that's a problem. Software validation, again, there's a new emphasis on to make sure the software validation, before you use any software in the manufacture or control of the medical device, the software must be validated.
Yes,
not the software in the device, but the software used in the manufacturing to run the QMS, all that need to be.
Yes, so we're going to be having a whole webinar on this a bit later.
Yeah, okay. Documentation requirement, surely the standard required quality manual and medical device file, control of documents, control of records. Quickly on this one.
So can I just ask about the medical device file? Because you mentioned earlier the technical file.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing, and there's all sorts of other files. What are the?
Yeah.
How do they all relate?
If you like, the acronyms which is used in the industry throughout is the design history file, yes, which is the first thing from scribble on paper to pre-release documentation in the development of the device.
Yep.
The DMR, which is I put it here, is the device master record. Basically, it's a set of documentation. If it is fully approved and released and given to a trained entity, right? Let's say Black Circuit Wise or some others, trained entity to manufacture, they should be able to convert. They should be able to convert the documentation to a device. They should be able to convert the information in the DMR to make the device.
Yeah.
Okay. So the medical device file must have the DMR at least and the verification documentation to make sure the device being verified. Control of documents. My advice is 15 to 20 procedures more than enough for any company, for any medical device. The quality manual, 20, 30 pages, and basically policies, make it as generic as possible. I like to say as well, quality management, a quality manual could be used to seek finance, could be used to present the company with your financiers, could be used to market the company if you want to float it. It doesn't have to be descriptive to do this, to do that. It must be really addressing the requirement of the standard, but it is a general policies which can be made a public document. That's how we make them. Control of records is very important, and I have to remind everyone now, under MDR, the requirement is no longer 5 years, it's minimum 10 years. So that's a new thing. A few examples here.
Can I ask you a question there? If you go out of business, and you've still got to maintain the records for 10 years?
Depend what records we're talking about. If you have a devices in the market, if a company make device and sold them to somebody, yes, you're supposed to. It's a legal requirement. You can't do much. Subcontractor and difference depend on the agreement between, for example, a company like yours and the medical devices legal manufacturer. That will be set in agreement. Who keeps what? This is just an example about list of procedures. I'm not going to spend time on it, but that can be organized like that. This is the technical file documentation as a requirement, product spec, regulatory plan, product classification, risk management, and so on and so on. This is the list of what goes in the technical file. And
that's, if you just step back to that's a really good list of examples of the kinds of things that happen. You do usability studies, clinical validation, you do your risk analysis.
This is just example from a company. We set the system for them. That's what we help them to.
These are very familiar kind of things.
A list of records. Sorry, couldn't make it bigger. This list of records, you must have the records, because if anything happens in the market, the investigator comes to the records first.
So just for the people who can't read that, you've got meeting minutes, all the various reports, purchase orders, even delivery of, delivery dockets. All these things are important.
Depend what they deliver. I'm not talking about
even the address that it was sent from.
Exactly.
It's very, very pedantic, isn't it?
If you remember, a couple of years back, we had the problem with the silicone implant, with the hip replacement, and so on and so on. Throughout these investigations, every piece of this document had a value. Yeah. So, okay, management responsibility, management commitment, leadership, and authority. That's really, I can't emphasize more how that affects. Management commitment is very, very, very important in implementing quality management systems. Customer focus, when the company makes to order or makes to stock. So again, that's a policy statement said that. Quality objectives. There could be objective, departmental objective, team objective, individual objective, and the objective must address the compliance of the system, the product safety and performance, personnel, quality management system performance, and post-market. So all this must be set, the objectives set for that. Quality management planning, I already talked about that QMS blueprint, that list I showed before. Org chart and job description, this is where the responsibility and authority is set. Org chart is important to set the interaction between different departments in the company, and job description must be signed by both, by the employee and the employer, to make sure everybody knows what's required from them. Management representative, there's a little, I think, a new requirement here. The management representative now under the MDR become the regulatory person as well. Or there could be two, I'm not sure, up to different company to decide. But the MDR require every company to have a regulatory person responsible for releasing the product, not anyone else. So that's a very, very big responsibility now. Internal communication, people we go there and say, how you communicate with your staff? Oh, we have a meeting here and there. Do you keep any minutes? No. And the auditors don't like that. Auditors like to see everything documented. Management review meetings as well. Some people do it very well. Some companies don't really do it in the way. They just add a bit of quality in their normal management meeting, and that doesn't meet the requirement. So there are 12 areas to be addressed under management review meetings, and any output must be documented with action plan. Because you can't have management review meeting twice or 3 times a year and don't have any action, anything to be actioned. I mean, what's the point at the end of the meeting? So, resources management, again, you want to have a business, you must provide resources, human resources, building, infrastructure, environment. Contamination control here, some confusion always in the industry. People, for example, they make devices, the device come back for repair and being in a hospital or being used by somebody, and they don't realize that there's obligation there to make sure that device is decontaminated before it enters the. So this is people, and in terms of environment, whether it's open space or a clean room. So that's the product realization. Here I want to make a comment really. Would like to see in every medical device development company, whether they are designers or manufacturer, for the team to have a training, or at least to read the essential requirement, the essential principles. Now they became GSPR, which is General Safety and Performance Requirement. Basically is the new MDR, and next month. Okay,
let's take a step back. What can you talk about? What are essential requirements and essential principles?
Probably we talk about GSPR better, because these two guys already out of use from
May. So what's a GSPR?
GSPR is the set of legal requirements set in the MDR, which is equally, they are set under the EP in Australia, under the Therapeutic Goods Act. What the device must comply with. And these are legal requirements, not regulatory requirements. These are laws. Nothing can be changed in the GSPR or before in the EP or ER, except by vote of parliament of that country.
Yeah.
This is run by, used to be run by the European Parliament, which is this one now, run by under the European Parliament, and here is by Federal Parliament of Australia. So these are the set of laws that device must comply with before it's placed in the market.
Yeah.
It's not a standard, it's a law.
So it's essentially going through what in Australia the TGA demands.
Demands essential principle, yeah.
Sort of pulling out of all of that what applies to our product.
Yeah.
And making that really clear so that everyone in the company is clear and understands
exactly
what we are legally
because
responsible
that affects the way you design the device, affects the way how you test the device, affects the way which material you use, and so on and so on. So, and unfortunately, I see in a number of areas, people already design device and their staff or the team involved has very little knowledge about this requirement. And that's not good, not good.
And I'm imagining, of course, that this is going to be different for every country in the world.
Yeah.
So do you synthesize what they require in Europe and what they require in America into a single document?
GSPR is the European requirement.
Yes.
ER used to be the European requirement. EP is the Australian. Now, for other countries, we're talking about FDA requirements.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to sell in Brazil, you want to sell in Canada, you want to sell in Japan, every country has its own additional requirements.
So do you have to have a different one for each country?
No, you can have combined one, but you can have combined one, depend on how big the device and what applicable, because from these requirements, not everything in the document is applicable to every device. You select, and you have to justify the ones which are not applicable, why they are.
I imagine you're focusing on the GSPR because that's the most stringent worldwide, is it?
No, the GSPR is the new one from May forward for Europe.
Okay.
This ER already finished. Now, again, I would like to emphasize for all developers to make sure they understand the risk and usability for any device. 14971 risk management, 62306 is the usability standard, 10993 is the biocompatibility standard, and if you have a powered device with software, must be 62304. Every medical device developer, engineer, must really have some good knowledge of these ones. Otherwise, we're not doing the right thing for the industry. Customer-related processes, product requirement, review of product requirement, communication with customer. If you're designing or you're manufacturing device on somebody else's behalf. Again, this need to be well documented in that. And this is, I think, everyone in the medical device industry knows this one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. The way how the design and development going, from planning, design input, output, review, verification, validation, and so on and so on. So this is the new one, which is the design D&D for design development file, which combines the DHF and the DHR. So the DHF design history file and the DHR is the manufacturing records.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is something we've kind of covered a little bit in our introductory webinars.
Exactly.
If people want to go back to that on their website.
Yeah, we'll be happy. If anybody have a question, we'll be happy to explain to them later. Yeah. Purchasing process, in terms of purchasing, there's always been confusing how far we have to go while we evaluating our suppliers. There is a number of guide documents. There's people available for people to see that, and we're happy to provide these guide documents as well if anybody needs that. This is just an example how to monitor the suppliers. Something simple, Excel sheet can be used. We're going to email that webinar to everybody attended, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm happy to explain if I have any question. Production and service provision. Again, this is basically for companies involved in the manufacture of the devices. Surely control over production, cleanliness of production, installation and activities. If they do servicing activity, if the device needs servicing, particular requirements for sterile, validation of production services. There's a lot of confusion here. How far we should go with validating our processes. If you're making a device and you inspect 100%, you don't need validation. If any auditor tells you no, send him to me or her. So production and service provision, again, all this related to the control on the production floor and how to identify the devices. The traceability, whatever method you use, or the serial number, batch number. For implantable medical devices, there is a lot of serial numbering required and individual traceability. Customer property, there's a bit of confusion here as well. The customer doesn't give us anything, we make everything. Okay, but would the customer send you something for repair? Oh yeah, well, whose property is that then? It's a customer's property while you're repairing it, and that's a bit of confusion there. And preservation and that as well. Control, monitoring, and measurement equipment. Again, here depend what sort of equipment you use. If you use the equipment to verify for release, I mean to inspect or to verify the device for sale, everything must be calibrated. During the development phase, you may use reference verniers, reference micrometers. They don't really need stringent calibration unless you use them for the final validation purpose.
And I just wanted to clarify, if you could go back to that slide. So my understanding, if you've got somebody here who's, a startup thinking, oh my goodness, what do you mean I have to do all of this? It's a huge challenge. But my understanding is that, for example, sterilization, you employ a company to do the sterilization. They will generate all the records.
Of course.
And then just hand them over to you. So as the sponsor or the owner of that business, all you have to do really is to make sure you keep a record of all those things that your supplier has given to you.
Exactly. It depends on what you set in the agreement between you and the sterilization company. If they keep them for you and now they have to keep it for 10 years, would they keep it for 10 years?
Yeah.
The best thing is when your product is being sterile, they should ship the records with the product or email it, and as a legal device manufacturer, keep it. At least you have access to it. Monitoring measure. Okay. This is basically the end. The last clause: monitoring and measurement. Feedback, proactive, and again in the feedback, people think, we get a lot of questions from but have you asked them about the device performance? You need to do proactive activities as much as reactive. The reactive, if they have a complaint, you will hear it. That's fine. But you need to see if those who don't have a complaint, are they not complaining because just they don't want to, or they have something to say? Okay. Reporting to regulatory authority, this has been always a requirement. Either regular reporting for certain devices or adverse event reporting, depend which case. Internal auditing, scheduled and announced. So the company must perform internal audit throughout the year to cover the full system, the full QMS. Monitoring and measurement of processes, monitoring and measurement of product. Of course, you cannot release product if you're not verifying the product. But that, again, during work in progress, finished goods, and post-market as well. Control of non-conforming product. Some people use non-conforming reports or CAPA. Action in response to non-conforming products. That's in the 1345 standard 216. They split this two in the action before delivery and action after delivery as well. Rework, if rework is done, rework must be well documented and the risk assessed, whether, for example, in electronics like your company, if you have to take an IC from a board and put another IC, someone must do assessment by heating the PCB. Are we damaging the pad next to it? And that's an example for that. Analysis of data becoming very critical as well, because to make sure that the quality management system is performing or not, the company must collect a lot of data and analyze as well. Improvement, again, the system expect that to go on improvement to maintain the effectiveness of the system, not improvement like under 9001 before. Continuous improvement. There is no word in 1345 called continuous improvement. You cannot keep tweaking the device under the name of improvement. That becomes different device. Yeah. So the improvement related to the quality management system, not the device. Corrective action and preventive action. And this is another example people can use if they want to. That's corrective action preventive register. Log every finding here and take it through the process and see the root cause, what need to be done, and just a summary of the importance of the changes between the 13.4 to 16. Regulatory requirements, people have to address local and global, depend what they want to sell. The risk management, everything now in 1345 must be risk-based approach.
Yeah.
You can always argue your case with any auditor, how much risk for that process and how much risk that process would inflict on the device. Validation, verification, and design transfer. Design transfer was a bit of a gray hidden area before. Now, the requirement is there must be a formal design transfer. When all the documents, and we call them DMR, are ready to be released for manufacturer, there must be some formal meeting, and especially if someone from the management to agree and sign, okay, our device ready for manufacture.
Yeah.
And then hand it to manufacturing. Outsourced processes and and supplier control. Again, I mentioned that before, evaluation of suppliers, it's becoming very critical because the supply chain now is stretching as far as it can be. And everyone in the supply chain must be evaluated in the same way.
Yeah.
Feedback, as I mentioned before, pre and post.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, thanks so much for that. It's taken a little bit longer than we expected. We've gone for the
lot of information ready to be said.
The full hour there. And look, I will extend the webinar by another 10 or 15 minutes just to handle some of the questions. Just as a reminder, just for those of you who joined late, my name is Tim Kanagita and I am the coordinator of the New South Wales Active MedTech community. My contact details on the right-hand side. Just wanted to acknowledge our sponsors again, in case you came late, Genesis Electronics Design and Circwise, both of them are ISO 13485 certified MedTech designers and manufacturers. And you've got Kevin's contacts there if you want to ask any specific questions if we run out of time. But do be patient for those of you who have asked questions. There's a few here. If you do have any questions, please use the little Q&A icon. Should be in your control panel. You can see it there on the right hand next to the raise hand symbol, and just please type in your questions there. So I'm just going to ask a question from somebody from Navi Medical Technologies. Thanks for being open about your company. What are the thoughts around paper-based QMS versus an electronic QMS versus medical device specific QMS, and what might be the most suitable for a startup company that is pre-market?
Okay, we can say that especially for startups, some of the new startups, they've been asked or been advised to implement a document control system at the start. That's not necessary at all. You can use normal Word and Excel programs to document the QMS and use SQL structure to keep the files, the folders and files, and that's sufficient for, especially for a startup company. The paper, definitely you don't want to have full paper system because it's not really a practical and it's hard to keep for record keeping. But electronic on the, I mean by electronic, like using Word and Excel and PowerPoints to document all the processes, that's more than sufficient.
Yes, so you don't need some sort of custom electronic system from, I presume companies sell these kind of things.
Yeah, all these ready-made ones, believe me, unless the company really grow bigger than can be handled, that's probably, think about that. So at this stage, 10, 15, 20, 30 people company, you don't need that.
Yeah, okay. The next question from an anonymous attendee is, does a designer and manufacturer of software as a medical device require ISO certification prior to designing and manufacturing a device, or can certification take place after manufacture?
Well, you can manufacture if you don't want to sell, you don't need a device. Right?
Yeah.
But if you're manufacturing to sell, you can't sell until you have a certification.
Yeah, so you cannot sell.
Yeah, you cannot sell.
You're not allowed to sell until, but I think the question here, because I think there's two parts to this question, the certification and then development of the system, because my understanding is that certification happens right at the end, but you still need to have your quality management system in place right throughout the development of the design and development of the device. Otherwise, you don't have any of those records in the history of design.
Surely, I mean, we're talking about if you take it two parts, it's good to start implementing the system, like quality management system, and seek 1345 certification from the start. Then everything is documented, right? And then at certain stage, when the technical file ready and the design is ready, then we seek for upgrade to get the CE mark or apply, for example, through TGA or through FDA. Not everyone has to have a CE mark, but what we try to emphasize here, having the system is very important. Certifying it or not is not the case here. Until you are ready, you want to sell. That's fine.
And in fact, my understanding is you're not allowed to be certified until you actually are selling.
Of course, I mean, you can be certified, you can have certificate, but you must have a tangible enough prototype and technical file ready for the notified body to see really you have a device to sell.
Yeah, they have to, when they do their audits, they have to see everything working. The whole system has to be up and running, basically. So you can't get it too early in the process.
No. And what I'm trying to say, 1345, one thing, but if you depend how you're applying. If you're applying for combined 1345 and CE mark, you must have then near ready design, so the company, the notified body, can review all the technical documentation to certify your system and give you CE mark or whatever for your device. But if you are in the development stage and you want to make sure all the documentation are done in the proper way and all that, then you have to start implementing quality management system. And when you're ready and the system up and running, then at different stages we can decide when we should seek the advice or the service of the notified body to give us certificate.
Okay. Next question here is for Edward, from Edward. Thanks for the webinar. On one of the slides, you mentioned that the management review meetings need to review 12 input areas and have an output action plan. What are the 12 input areas?
They are listed in the standard under management review input to management review. I don't think we have time now to go and read them all, but basically I can give you a few, like results of internal audits, feedback from the client, the customers.
Can you find the slide?
Yeah, I can find the slide. I can find the slide, but I can't find the listing because the listing is not in the slide. It's one of the latest slides. I mean, management review under. Slide 18. Management review meeting. Yeah, inputs to management review meeting. Well, if you have a copy of the standard, go for the title management review meetings, and there is the input is listed there. There's 12 items listed there. As applicable, they need to be addressed.
Now, give some examples of what they are.
Non-conformities, result of internal audit, the result of external audit, the feedback from the client, and so on and so on. So
here we go. One of our helpful staff here at Genesis has just run in.
You can read that.
Yeah, feedback, complaint handling, report to regulatory authorities, audits, monitoring and measurement of processes, monitoring and measurement of product, corrective action, preventative action, follow-up actions, changes that could affect the quality management system, recommendations for improvement, and applicable new or revised regulatory requirements. Thank you very much, Matt Sheedy, one of our awesome engineers here at Genesis. Okay. Now,
any other questions?
Yeah, you okay with that? Yeah. You want to go to the end again, please?
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I just wanted to ask couple of final questions myself.
So where is that? Sorry, where did we go?
Oops, sorry.
We must have.
Yeah, you should still be on the right slide.
Go here. Yeah.
Okay. One of the big things that is in this whole area of medical device development is that the need for regulatory compliance essentially doubles the cost of the device. If you didn't have to do all of that, we could, in terms of the costs of getting development and manufacture and so forth. Just how much does it cost to, get a regulatory system? I understand you can't give a figure because that'll depend on, the client, but what are the contributors to cost? Why is it so expensive?
It's depend on the device, basically, and depend on the size of the company, and depend on which notified body you see, because all of them have different types. I mean, the contributor is basically, if you are a startup company, you need to provide resources to implement, I said, 10 to 15 procedures. Now, if the company have someone who understands how to do them, then there will be internal cost. But if they don't, they will seek somebody like us, and they have to compensate us for the work we provide, for the service we provide for them. Now, one of the big costs, not the quality management system, the procedures we help company implement. This is not the big cost. The big cost is in developing the technical documentation. And that definitely depends on what device we're talking about. I mean, a scalpel, surgical scalpel is a medical device, and a pacemaker is a medical device. Not every medical device, and not the technical documentation for different medical devices are different. And how much expertise and competence in the company, with the company staff, can contribute to develop, for example, classification. You're preparing all these documents. If we go to that slide, if you want, if you want to go to the list.
I just think in terms of time, we better.
Yeah, terms of time,
No.
we don't go there back, but all this list I put on the slide for the technical documentation, right?
Yeah.
Every document needs time to be prepared, and depend how much the company can contribute to that, or they want to seek somebody who expert. We can't, in many cases, we can't help develop all the technical documentation. For example, usability, some area where risk we can't contribute. For example, I can't contribute to assessing risk, electrical risk for the device. I'm not an electrical engineer. I help in the mechanical, but they have to seek somebody, software, biocompatibility.
Yeah.
All these need to provided by experts. Whether the company have the expert is fine and enough, or they need to seek the service from somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's where the cost is.
And I guess just putting in a plug, not just for Genesis, but all electronics designers and, for example, all of the industrial designers out there.
Yeah,
the reason you engage with these people is they really know the subject. They've done medical devices before. Even if you hire somebody in who's an engineer to take responsibility for that internally, generally speaking, they're not going to have enough, and no one person's going to have enough experience.
That's what
Excuse me, all of the aspects of everything from app development, through to software, to hardware, firmware, all these different aspects that need to be thought about. So they just need to be, I guess, a knowledgeable person so that you can engage properly with your suppliers. And
when you develop a medical device, you need some medical expertise as well to do the clinical evaluation, the clinical validation. You need someone, sometimes a doctor or at least a registered nurse.
Yes.
Not every signature is acceptable. So,
yes, correct. Another question is around the notified bodies, because you mentioned that they're a critical part of it, and you need to they're almost like a partner in the process, aren't they? They give advice.
They are a partner. They give advice as much as they could.
So I understand Australia does not have any notified bodies.
Notified body.
Why not? Where are they?
Okay.
What is the process by which you would select one? What questions do you need to ask them? And how do you know you've got a good one? And how early in the process do you need to engage with these notified bodies?
We'll start from the end. As I mentioned before at the start, that when we talk about quality management system design, we have to think with the end in mind. Start with the end, where how to find a good one or what. It is not really how to find a good one or not. All of them, especially the top 6-10 of them, they are well qualified and they will provide you a good service, though at different price. The price will depend whether they come from Europe or they have a base in Australia. Why we don't have one in Australia? Because notified body is a European term. It's a European organization, cannot be Australian organization. In Australia, we have TGA as a regulatory body looking after medical devices. And slowly they're releasing
So if you're only going to release a product only in Australia,
you don't need notified body. You can go to TGA and get conformity assessment.
But just about everyone is releasing a global product.
Exactly.
And therefore you need
for Europe and many other countries, CE and 1345 are the ticket to go. When you go to, let's say, Asian countries, they would take 1345 as good, and they have their little extra or additional extra things they need to comply. You have to comply. Again, depend on the device we're talking about. For USA, 1345 is fine because the requirement by FDA is similar to 1345, and from the commentary in the industry, that FDA is moving nearly completely to 1345. They go for harmonization, and that's why they join under MedSAP, because MedSAP basically 1345.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of pricing, I don't know really. I mean, depend on the device. Quality management system could cost $15,000 to $25,000. Certification could cost between 15 to 20 for CE marking, 30 sometimes, depend on how big the technical file, how big the company. Yeah, and for pricing, really, you can't, unfortunately, there's no fixed price for these things.
Okay.
And any other?